Hello and welcome to the BJJ Talk podcast. I'm here with Nico. Hi, welcome to the podcast, Nico. Can you just
Hello.
introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely, yes. So my name's Nico Bajerski. I'm the head coach and founder of BMA Halifax, which stands for after my surname, Bajerski Martial Arts. And we teach juniors, adults, BJJ, kickboxing, MMA, but our gym primarily is focused on BJJ, the grappling side of stuff. No gi, submission wrestling, gi. So that's what we do. Shortly after leaving school, started teaching, and I've been teaching for 13 years now.
Yeah. So I've read on your website, on your academy website, that you come from a family of martial artists. Your sister does Thai boxing, I think, and your granddad does judo, is a black belt in judo. Do you think they had quite an impact on you in making you want to start jiu-jitsu at age 14?
I imagine so, yes. So growing up, there was lots of talk of fighting, if you will. So yes, my granddad wasn't a martial artist, but I always say he was more of a martial artist than 90% of them out there. He fought in World War II. He was a Polish war commander. He actually escaped from some Nazi German camps. He made his way to Scotland, then to Huddersfield, where he met my Italian grandmother. Funnily enough, on my Italian side, my great uncle was a world judo champion. My
I think
dad,
that's what I was thinking of
that's
when I said, yeah, your granddad, yeah.
now funnily enough as well, my dad, he's also not done martial arts, but again, he's more of a martial artist than 90% of them out there. He grew up with my grandfather, who was very militant and probably had some troubles during the war, who basically beat my dad and my uncles up growing up. So they grew up very martial. They grew up with that side of it. And
Mm.
my uncle then did karate. He was also a prize fighter, undefeated prize fighter. And I certainly grew up hearing him talking. Every time I saw him, he was talking about fighting, and every time he left the house, he got in a fight. Basically, he's a different type of person. Was my uncle,
Yeah.
and yeah, my sister China, she is a professional Thai boxer, and one of my cousins is a kickboxing black belt in the army. My other cousin on my other side is a student. My children train. So yeah, everybody around me is involved or has been involved in martial arts for sure.
And you started Japanese jiu-jitsu first, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'd started Japanese jiu-jitsu because I didn't know what Brazilian jiu-jitsu was. I didn't
yeah,
know there was a difference. And when I started teaching, see, I've been teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu now for longer than I've done BJJ, if that makes sense. So when I
yeah.
started teaching MMA, and I had a BJJ class, and I was just doing Japanese jiu-jitsu, I didn't really know the difference. But so I was teaching the grappling side of it, and then I did that for 2 years. I got my second belt up in Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then from there I moved on when I was 21 to BJJ, when I soon found the difference on my first class, that the 2 years that I've done, to be honest with you, didn't really have any weight at all when I started BJJ. It didn't help me much whatsoever. But that's not to say it's not good in its own way. It's good
Yeah.
in its own way. There are things that I did learn from it, which do work, you know.
So, what do you think the difference is with Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
So the Japanese jiu-jitsu is it's from, and it's not changed much. It was from its time and place, which was samurai warfare. So wherever school you go to, you'll do a lot of blocking into a hip throw, and then
Yeah,
a pretend punch into between where the armor was, between where the armor was on. Well, there wasn't much live grappling and not much depth to knowledge on the floor either. It was more like judo, if I'm honest with you. But then
right.
again, didn't do much live live sparring on the feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there was one guy there who was a black belt, a South African guy, who was very good
Yeah.
at what he did, and he truly believed in what he did, to the point where I'd argue he would be more effective on the street than some BJJ black belts who potentially would be intimidated on the street. This guy wasn't. So in terms of effectiveness on the street, he was one of the most savage men I've met in my life. Yet
Mm.
the art was a little bit different. He still would be able to defend himself for sure, you know?
Yeah. So why did you start jiu-jitsu then,
So,
specifically?
yeah, well, I started kickboxing, Thai boxing when I was 14 years old. And I always wanted to basically defend myself. I grew up watching Bruce Lee, hearing about fighting. And I never wanted to think someone, because he was bigger, could beat me in a fight. Ultimately, violence is the underpinning of most situations in life. On some level, it's good to know that the underpinning, you can defend yourself. So obviously, if I'm doing striking, I was a PT at a gym, and I asked if I could do a class, and then I started teaching Thai boxing, and then we decided to make it more MMA. So I needed to do the ground game anyway. That hence why I got into Japanese jiu-jitsu. And yeah, I would do one Thai boxing class, Japanese jiu-jitsu class straight after for a couple of years. And then from there I fell in love with grappling. I fell in love with it, to be honest with you. I was doing that, but grappling every night at my academy from the age of 18, every single night. And then I was getting more out of it at my own academy grappling. I was getting better there through live grappling than what I was studying at Japanese jiu-jitsu. And then I wanted to have an MMA fight. So I looked and found a gym that was having an MMA fight night, one in Keighley, Air Valley. And I went over there and I ended up speaking to a guy and then doing the class. And then that's how I got into BJJ. So I did the
Yeah.
kickboxing. And then he says, look, you can't have an MP. He says, because I was an elite level striker at the time. I'd had a semi-professional Thai boxing fight and I was very good at boxing. But he says, you can't have an MMA fight with the ground game you've got. I says, well, I'm 2 years into Japanese jiu-jitsu. He went, just do this BJJ class
Mm.
and then let's see how you get on. I got smashed on the floor, properly smashed. And I properly fell in love with BJJ then because I felt the level of effectiveness, which is what I always loved of martial arts. I thought, how the hell is this 60-kilo woman or whoever it were, everybody absolutely effortlessly pinning me? And it's the first time in martial arts I saw magic within BJJ,
Yeah.
and I absolutely fell in love with it to the point where I was training a ridiculous amount in it, and I got my black belt in 9 years. And not many can do that, but then again, I was working full time in a factory, then driving to my academy to teach for 2 hours. Then I was driving from there to Keighley to train with professionals and black belts for another 2 hours. Then on a weekend, I'd be competing in jiu-jitsu. So I
Mm.
was live, eating, breathing jiu-jitsu.
So do you find teaching rewarding then?
Yeah, I do. For example, I was watching clip on Instagram the other day. I'm not mentioning his name. This is fine. This is fine. But he said,
Yeah.
his words. So I'm just repeating what he said. He said, would you rather, someone asked me, would you rather live to 90 or win the worlds? He said, I'd rather, and then die the next day. He says, I'd rather win the worlds and die the next day. I thought, wow, what a strong mindset to have. Just win the worlds, die the next day.
Yeah.
However, every single time I've put an end goal to something, you that the process is gone. It's no longer what you thought. So every time I thought, I want to get a black belt, got my black belt, I'm fighting a cage, fought in a cage. I want to create some champions, but ultimately what I get rewarded from is enhancing lives. I particularly enjoy teaching the kids self-defense, anti-bullying, making them realize they're not stupid. They get told that all the time. Making the first lesson I teach the juniors when they walk in the academy is how to connect any problem they've got to an opportunity and winning. Now,
Yeah.
if that happens after 6 weeks, the student has then got the martial mindset. Once a student's got a martial mindset, you've got a student for life. Because when they're not even there, you've enhanced them already. Some of my junior students now have gone on to excellent at school, because whereas before they would see a problem and hard work and lots of work in front of them, now what they see is a challenge, and that they know they can do it if they tackle it in different ways. So for
Yeah.
me, it's enhancing lives, in particular junior lives, that can never be boring. It can never be, you can never complete it. And that's got to be the main reason. If you don't have a fundamental reason like that, you're not going to go on and do it forever, because when you've then achieved what you want to achieve, what's next? Like Tyson Fury said, when he won the world, when he won the belts, he did that all his life to win that. And then afterwards, he was super depressed because he thought, what's next? What's next?
Yeah, exactly. So have you noticed kids that start martial arts, and they start quiet or shy, and then they gain confidence? Because there's a few people that I've spoken to in this podcast who tell me that.
Yeah, absolutely. We get in the martial art world, usually is for the downtrodden man, the child who is shy, quiet, introverted. Usually,
Yeah,
there's a reason they've come to a martial art gym. If everything's dandy in your life, usually you're not going to go to a BJJ gym. It's because they want something, they need some confidence and some self-defense. And often when a child comes in, they know they are then part of something. So it's not easy. I don't make it easy straight away. It's not
yeah,
easy. But as time passes, they see their achievements in real time. So we get the kids straight away to control the loss. We say, you're not going to win. Don't worry about the winning. You're not going to win this match. But eventually, over time, you'll get to a point where you can stall it out and even, and then there'll be opportunities and windows of opportunities to win. And then I always revert back to the first time they started and says, do you remember when you couldn't beat that person, or there was no way, you didn't see any opportunity, no way to win? Now
yeah,
you win. And, you know, some of them say they're stupid, they can't do it, they're not clever. So I give them examples. I say, look at these two grappling in the middle now. One of them is very intelligent at school. The other one's not. He's artistic. He's articulate. He's
yeah,
artistic. He's been methodical, and the artistic person's playing in his own way. Eventually, he wins. The schooling system is very much taught kids to think they're stupid or not based on education. I was the same. I got told you're stupid, not but I was very good at what I liked. So
yeah,
art, certain types of business, certain studies that I liked. But I said the most successful people you'll ever meet in life didn't do well at school, because they're
yeah,
very, in a way, programmable and don't think outside the box. So if you're
yeah,
sort of middle and you're creative, that's, to me, is the best intelligence you've got. So just keep working on that, and then eventually they become better people, more confident. Obviously, that's that side of it. You quickly talk about bullying. A lot of the kids
yeah,
have been bullied quite literally within 6 months. Bullying stops. The other side to that
yeah.
is people come of being a bully, which we forget about. So then when they become a bully and I find out they've been bullying, then they have to do 5 weeks of drilling only, and they get punished for it. That shows the parents I care. And when they've been bullied, they have one opportunity to stay in the gym. That's to go and apologise to the kid they were bullying. They were bullying. And on top of that, they then have to look after that kid and said, if they've got a problem, come to me. And I always know what school they're at. And I always have students in every single year above higher belts than them. I say, well, they've got their eye on you as well now. So you
Right.
can't win either way. So I actually help people not be bullied, and I help people that
Yeah,
are bullies to stop being bullied. We have a chat. How are you all doing? We had a great week. Anyone been bullying this week? Tell me the truth. Some other kid might tell me, because I know I'm big on anti-bullying. See, I've been a bad
yeah.
bully, but I've been badly bullied as well. I've done both. I've been on both sides,
Right.
so like either side of it. And at the heart of every bully is someone who's just insecure. So if someone's bullying, I just want to see, why are you bullying? Let's knock it on the
Yeah,
head. And that's one thing we do stand for. All the local schools know us for this. We get kids to be it's nicer kids, and they like us for it. So I can't have one of my kids going out there using the skills, particularly what you teach in jiu-jitsu is very dangerous. You know what I mean? So they need to know not to use it.
Well, exactly, yeah. So you said it has a big impact on children. So when you started um, martial arts and then jujitsu, did it have a big impact on you personally?
Yeah, yeah, massively for the confidence and self-defense, as in particular the first 3 years. You know, you're a young man and you realize that, ultimately wherever you go, you can probably beat anybody in a fight, other than
Yeah,
people, and the ones who can beat you, they are.
yeah,
So it can go to your head a little bit when you're younger. I mean, uh, now I've come through the other side of it. Like when I was younger, if someone in my early 20s, if someone give me any stick out and about, I'd deal with it. But now you come out the other side of it, don't you? And you
yeah,
think you just don't have a clue, and you just end up walking away because there's no. Like I tell the guys at the gym, you can all go and fight somebody and beat them up, but unless it's self
yeah,
defense, you need to use it for self defense. And I hear stories every week, like you have to think, we've got like nearly 200 students at BMA now, and across the world, we've got more students that still align with us in Dubai, in Thailand. And I hear stories every week from the police, the door staff, students, paramedics, fighters. It's everywhere. It's kids. So at least once a week, I will hear one story of self defense. And, it's usually someone bigger, naive that starts on one of my students and then gets taught a lesson. But if it's in self defense, then that's fine.
yeah. So do you
Yeah.
think it's important for, let's say, police to know jujitsu?
Yeah, 100%. At the moment, I train about 8 to 10 members of Metropolitan Police that serve in and around Halifax area, and I've trained a lot in the wider community as well. I have a lot of police officers that come to me for one-to-one sessions for privates. It's funny
Yeah,
because usually when I drive around as a police officer, I know who they are. So it's
yeah,
someone I've taught. It's very, very important. In fact, I did a risk management seminar about 6 months ago with 5 members of the police, and I spent the first half an hour sitting down talking to them because the level of violence in the world now is not what it were 15 years ago. And big part of it is the fact that they're not prepared for the level of violence that some individuals in this country now are.
mm,
And they need to know jujitsu because some people out there don't respect the police. If they can hit them or attack them and then run off, they will. So a big part of it is knowing your enemy, and I still think a lot of police officers don't fully know their enemy, how bad some people are in this world, in this country now. So we work on that, and it is different. How I train the public security personnel is completely different to a fighter. It's a different class. We split into 3 parts. It's very simple. First off, they need the mindset, line in the sand, which we discussed. The second part is a blueprint, and the last part, the art, which doesn't change much. The blueprint is the big one. What's when there's 2 people, how do you stand? How do you orientate yourself if someone walks towards you? Where do you put your hands? Where do you look? Misdirection is massive. And we do a lot of work with that, a lot of work with that. And
yeah,
that's it. So we help the police an awful lot and the door staff as well. Yeah.
yeah. So you think jujitsu is pretty effective then on the street?
I know it is. And when people say this to me from time to time, and it's like the reason why I can say it is I've used it on the street upwards of 15 times in self defense.
Right.
I've I've put people to sleep in rear naked chucks in the centre of Leeds that have tried to beat me and my friends up down a back alley. So it is 100% effective. But obviously, this is the main argument around it. People
Yeah,
say, you've got the floor in a street fight. Well, my argument is sometimes you've got no choice. If you watch any boxing match, it comes they end up coming into a grab and then it's on the floor. So once it's on the floor, it is on the floor. That's it. You're more likely to defend a takedown. You're more likely to be able to take someone down. You're more likely to get back to your feet. If it's a one-on-one fight, then you are better off subduing them on the floor anyway. Then you get the people that say, well, what, I could pull my keys out, I'll bite your arm, I'll do this. And I'll say,
Yeah.
as Rutten says, okay, if you bite my arm, I'll snap your arm. You know, if you try and bite my neck, I'll break your neck. Don't. You have some funny people in the martial arts world come into the gym talking stuff like that, and you got to be polite. But I got to say, okay, well, you just honestly just go to bite my leg. I'm just going to pull your arm a little bit when you do it, and you'll make a screaming noise, and then you'll just learn
Yeah.
your lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny.
You do a lot of competing, don't you? Or you did, in like
Yeah,
MMA and Thai boxing.
well, the thing is, I've done a broad spectrum, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, at the start of my career, we had quite a lot of smoke fights in the gym. Every Saturday morning, we'd have champions coming down from karate, different styles, and we'd have fights in my cage. When I first got the cage, we'd just have unsanctioned fights.
Yeah.
Um, and then, as I said, I've had a K1 fight, Thai boxing fights, plenty of interclubs, a couple in the cage, semi-pro, upwards of 50 plus grappling matches, competed white, blue, purple, brown, Pantheon, competed on Pantheon. But then a couple of years ago, I stopped competing. I just concentrated on coaching. And
Yeah.
as I said, my students now compete basically at a higher level than I did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm clearly quite good at coaching. You know, I am. I mean, anyone can call themselves a coach. Anyone can call himself a fighter. There is levels to it. Um, I'm I'm pretty decent at coaching. So I just prefer that. And I never particularly enjoyed competing anyway, to be honest with you. I didn't
Right.
really enjoy it. It was all right. I enjoyed it after. I enjoyed it after.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a martial artist and a coach, and I competed to be a better coach and to say I've done it and to do it and to feel it. Don't get me wrong. The number one grappling coach on the planet, John Danaher, has never competed. The number one MMA coach on the planet, arguably Faraz Sahabi, he's never competed MMA. Just, you don't need to, but it adds to my credentials and adds to the credentials of somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they've done it.
That,
But I
yeah.
go on.
That's what I was going to ask, if you think you need to compete to become a good martial artist or not.
Yeah, I think once or twice, even if it's just once, even if it is just once, I think most coaches, if they could, should do it. I also, particularly the MMA in the cage, I think
Yeah.
you can train someone to get in the cage, even if you've not got in the cage. But there's just something about it where giving the advice out to do stuff in a cage, if you've not been in there yourself, even once, is a little bit. It's you can't quite put the art to how students feeling then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's knowing that you've been through this, knowing you've seen a stretch. I always tell the younger guys at the gym, have a cage fight. Having a cage fight is the number one toughest thing a man can willfully put themselves through.
Yeah.
Uh, so going out, if you're not going to have the grappling matches, have a cage fight. Yeah, but they won't. Not a lot of them do. Only 1% of or 0.1% of martial artists will jump in a cage. But
Yeah.
even grappling matches are highly nervous. Even jumping on the grappling mats, I've got respect for anybody who does it. Someone still try to break your arm. It's still somewhat of a fight. It is a fight.
Yeah.
It's a fight. So
Yeah.
anybody who competes at anything,
What do you advise someone to do to prepare for any competition, like general advice?
just train really hard as much as you
Yeah.
can. Confidence comes from preparation. Well, obviously, when I started it, Instagram was very small, so we did it for the love of it. And what's cringy is to see all the new people coming up in BJJ, and they're doing it for the Instagram. They're see a lot
Yeah.
of, I know, they're more concerned about the video of an Instagram reel or that than actually getting students good. I put nothing on Instagram. I've got some amazing stuff I could show and teach. My striking, my kickboxing, my jiu-jitsu, my gi, wrestling, and it'd look really good. It'd get my profile massive. But I don't, because I'm a professional and I keep it within what I do. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I am saying a lot
Yeah.
of coaches definitely think heavily before they do a class if they're going to film it, how it's going to look, follow me around talking and teaching. And I think my job is to get people good. It's not to look good on social media. They pay me hard-earned cash to come to the gym.
Yeah.
I put my heart and soul into it.
Enough. So, what do you recommend people do alongside jujitsu, like in terms of workouts? Because obviously you said you're a PT, so you must have some knowledge of.
Yeah. I'm a level 3 PT. I don't do as much work with that these days,
Yeah.
but I'm biased to running. I'm biased with running. A lot of people would say, yeah, no, but BJJ is an endurance sport ultimately. I
Yeah.
run 5 times a week. So I like running. I recently brought in one of the top S&C coaches in the country, a guy called, what's his name now? Oh, I'm bad with names. Anyway, he trains Mark DeCasey and what have you. And he does an S&C circuit at the gym for my fighters. A lot of the work he does is specific to BJJ, a lot of the neck work. But you know what? What I'd recommend, if
Yeah.
I'm honest with you, is body weight exercises. All body weight. For me, anyway, I just can't think there's much better things for jiu-jitsu than basic stuff like sit-ups, you're sitting up to grab someone, pull-ups, you're pulling them in, press-ups, you're pushing them off. Ultimately, just your basic stuff. Calisthenics is so difficult, like the muscle-ups, all that stuff is perfect for jiu-jitsu. And, if you're going to a gym and doing bicep curls and the bench and hamstring curls and all them specific stuff to make you look good and big, it's not necessarily the right thing for jiu-jitsu. But ultimately, the best thing for jiu-jitsu, I always tell my fighters and stuff, don't ever replace a BJJ class with a weight class. Some of them will say, well, I'm doing 2 BJJ classes a week with you, but then I'm not doing this one because I'm going to the gym to get strong. And I think,
Yeah.
just no, you've got plenty of the time to go to the gym. You need to do your jiu-jitsu first. Do that
Yeah.
first and then do that after. Never
Yeah.
replace it. At least don't do that anyway.
So, do you have a recommended amount of jujitsu sessions someone should do a week, or no?
No, I think to be honest with you, you can do it every day. You just don't need to do loads. Don't you need to go in the red? Just do a bit every day. If a fighter or a hobbyist trains every day with a couple of different body types and just a few sets for 15 minutes a day, that's enough. If you're pushing yourself into the red and then you need a big break for the next one, you're never going to get to the point where you're building yourself up steady, steady, steady. So I do recommend not going into the red very often. Try not to go into the red much, but just try and do a little bit every day, and then maybe have one day off. But people are very hook up on this rest days and having days off and stuff. But I think you can train every day and you can build the tolerance up and build it and build it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like you say, it depends how hard you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Just go steady and just build it up. I did at one point. I was training with the head coach of Manchester Wrestling Club, Oleg, for nearly a year. I was doing 2 hour wrestling PTs with him, grueling. And for the first 30 minutes, he had me doing wrestling exercises. So for the neck, up and down, rolling your neck, bridges, but big bridges, shoots and
Yeah.
sprawls, big jumps. So we still do that every now and again at the gym. And man, that were tough. Those wrestling exercises are so, so difficult. But they get you super fit and strong. And I do get my athletes to do that once a month. But it is once a month. Wrestling's hard. Wrestling's hard. We wrestle, we do some
Yeah.
wrestling twice a week, and we do the drills and we do that at the gym. But just pure wrestling classes, I take my hat off to them because it's a difficult, difficult sport. But then again, that's what I love about jiu-jitsu is that there's magic to jiu-jitsu, and you're not going to get out of a guillotine no matter how powerful you are, no matter how good your double leg is. And that's what I love about jiu-jitsu, the magic of it, the fact that you don't need much athleticism, but you can beat somebody through pure skill and technique.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is that why you think it's okay for someone to start at a later age as well? Because
Yeah, yeah,
you
you
have
can.
to do.
I've got a black belt now joined up from another academy who is 69. He's 69, so he's
Oh
the
wow.
member. I've got some guys in the late 50s. They just train different. They just train different. So you can do
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu at any age. I don't think you could join a wrestling class at any age and be part of the squad, if you will. I think that'd do you in. my grand, she's just recently passed away, but she was walking every day for an hour, regardless of
Oh,
the
wow.
quite a lot of it from her as well. She was walking
Yeah,
every for an hour in blizzards, and she'd just carry on walking. Nothing would stop her to getting that hour's walking. And it's a mindset, and that's a big thing we work on at BMA is the mindset,
yeah,
because that's what separates champions. It's what separates people in life. It's what separates winners and losers. Um, and the mindset at BMA is relentless till the end, and they've all got it. And we do that. I do that through chats at the end of the gym, through when I speak to them, when I roll with them, through the amount we grapple, through the ethos we've got at the gym. I'll make them mentally tough to the point where my athletes, whether it's striking or grappling, if they get a knock, if they get punched in the face, if they're getting beaten up, their mindset is they're not been defeated. You're charging me up with energy, charging me up.
right.
So if they
Yeah,
get in the face, my athletes feel that punch, and it makes them powerful to hit them back hard with energy, giving me energy, as opposed to I've been hit, you're zapping my energy.
yeah,
That mindset shift is massive, especially when they believe it. It's like saying it, but when you know it and you believe it, you're dangerous. You're dangerous because imagine someone that you punch you're charging him off if you hit them mentally or they're getting hurt.
yeah.
Different animals. So there's lots of tricks and stuff we do with the mind and the mindset. But one thing's for sure that all my guys have it, and they're all very tough, and they take it off the mat into life, and they're tough in life as well because of it.
So how did you develop that mindset then?
I just had it. I just had it. I'll be honest with you. When I was 14, it sounds a bit crazy. It might have been through my family, I don't know. But if there was a storm, I was a big runner. I'd just run into the storm and like nothing can defeat me. I'll carry on going. I'll carry on going. Bring it
Yeah,
on. And then through childhood of, it was a decent child. I had a decent childhood, but somewhat intimidating. Parents had argued quite a lot, so I wanted to protect myself and the mindset there. And then a career in martial arts, and then I had quite a lot of trouble at one point when my second son, who was born with a few complications. It was quite traumatic, if you will, and it'd be enough to crush a lot of people. But the mindset shift to me is I'm going to use this difficult time to make my life twice as good, to push it into progress. And
yeah,
if I have one bit of advice or thing that I live by and push the younger men, particularly at the gym, is to turn pain into progress, which is on the mat and off the mat. It's no
yeah,
different. And if you live by that, whether it's a punch in the face on the mat to charge you up or some crap in life, you charge you up,
yeah,
then I don't think it's much more of a powerful thing you can live by. And that's definitely what my main ethos is, regardless. Pain to progress, on the mat, off the mat, it's the same thing.
yeah. Because I guess there's always some sort of pain in life. No one gets away with having
No,
no pain in their life. Everyone's got something they have to work through or something that happens.
the most successful grapplers, people in life, are the ones who can deal with the most amount of stress and carry on anyway. But then the really successful people get the pain and use it for progress. For example, Susie, she's one of our students, European champion. She's had two big injuries. And instead of stopping, she thought, I'm going to get better. She couldn't roll for 6 months, but she thought, I'm going to
Yeah,
get. She turned up to the gym every day and took notes and studied. And she came back with a different game plan and everything.
yeah,
Whereas most people would stop for 6 months and get worse. So it's the mindset is massive in BJJ and MMA and life just to move forward and keep progressing.
yeah. So what do you think has motivated you to keep going though? So you've been
Yeah,
doing it for years and years. What?
yeah. Well, first off, my two main motivations for me in my life is I need to grow. I need to feel like I'm developing and growing. I can't be stagnant. I cannot sit still and feel like I'm not progressing with anything. I've just got to keep moving forward. So growth is the first one. Fear is the next one. So fear, when I started teaching, I was no good at grappling. As I said, I was just a striker. So for the first 3 years, I was still a white belt. That comes with quite a lot of questions from other people that are jealous. So it's rubbish. What's he teaching?
Yeah,
My thing is, I'll prove you wrong. And I said to them back then, like, um, I'll be a black belt one day and I'll have amazing students and I'll do well. Just watch and like, yeah, whatever. And I did it. But it's because they said that made me do it. You know what I mean? It's
All right,
because,
so they helped you.
yeah, and I always say, Keith, I want you to doubt me. I want you to say I can't do it because that's going to make me do it. The last thing I want people really, weirdly enough, to say is Nico's really good now. Don't really want that. I want them to say, no, he's not. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Keep
yeah,
going. Tell me I'm not good enough. I'll prove you wrong. So yeah, it's for me. I need to grow. And as I said, the last one is enhancing lives, the kids in particular, and the adults. Can't get enough of that. You know, like at the gym last Wednesday, and this young man, he keeps rooting out sparring partners with the biggest people at the gym. And I said, it's quite impressive. I see a lot of people avoiding the harder rounds at a gym. You're not. I'm impressed with it. And he went, I joined BMA because I'm scared of my dad. I says, what do you mean? He went, when my dad gets drunk and on drugs, he's intimidating, and I want to defend my mum if he beats my mum up. So he says, I'm not scared of my dad anymore because I beat people up here that are bigger than my dad. So, I mean, I'm not advocating him beating his own dad up, but what I'm saying is he's at least not living in fear at home anymore. So doing stuff
yeah,
like that, what more motivation do you need? 2
yeah,
years ago, there was a mum at the gym and she kept
yeah,
pestering a child as I'm teaching. I says, well, just leave it alone. Leave your child alone. It's fine. Just sit down, relax. So no, he won't touch anybody anymore. I said, what do you mean? He just went, well, Nico, my child doesn't like being touched. I can't hug my own child because he'll start crying. I can't hug my child on a night. He's got a mental condition. We've been paid thousands to see psychologists. And eventually I looked around one day and she's absolutely crying her eyes out. Makes me sad to think about it now. I says, what's wrong? She turns around and a child is grappling with another child.
oh,
Now this child cuddles his mum on a night. I would argue
wow,
that one of the out of my whole career so far, that's probably the best memory that I've got, the victorious memory, if you will, over a student winning a competition. Because now I've got kids, and if I couldn't hug one of them, I don't know. But now I can. Child's hugging his mum, so that I appreciate it more the more I think about it. You know what I mean? And I didn't do that.
yeah,
That's Jitsu. That's BJJ. The BJJ did that. The child's in the
yeah,
moment and grappling changed his life.
yeah, that's amazing. But you
Yeah.
say about that guy that was scared of his dad.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Sean Strickland when he talked about his dad
Right.
being quite violent. So it makes you
Yes.
think the few
Yeah.
people that have that sort of background,
Yeah.
that's why they want to learn to fight, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. My uncle was the same. As I said, my uncle Ricky, his dad, my granddad Stanley, he was fine with me, but he left the war. He apparently had a big stick above the fireplace, and he'd have a string or something like that, and he'd sit in silence in the living room, and he'd put this string around the rope as he's looking at my dad and my uncles. And when he got to the end, he'd beat them up with it fearlessly, beat them up to the point where when they was older, obviously what they did when they went out fighting, my uncle used to go to every rough pub in Yorkshire back in the 80s when there was a lot of them on his own on Saturday night and look to fight the hardest man and beat the hardest guy up,
Yeah,
beat everyone up till one day they had enough of it and he got jumped by 30 guys in Waterloo. But he was obviously fighting his dad. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
when these things happen, there's a reason why people get into it. There's always a reason why people get into martial arts. It's like it's for self protection and stuff like that, and they don't want to take any crap off anybody, I suppose. And then what happens eventually is, like all martial artists, anyone gets heavily involved in martial arts, they're all spiritual, become quite spiritual, and then you go around the other side of it and you go, violence doesn't seem to follow me as much anymore. Maybe I was the one starting it.
yeah, yeah, potentially, yeah.
But
Do
yeah,
you think that's why it's good for women as well? Because,
yeah,
you
100%.
know,
Like some of the ladies at the gym now, um, there is no chance that they would live in fear really of being raped because they grapple with men all the time and get them in triangle chokes for fun and stuff. That must be quite liberating to not live in any
yeah,
sort of fear. of walking down a back alley, which they won't. Yeah, very important for women. As well, I've done privates with a lot of women that have been getting abused at home by the partner, and they've
Yeah.
snuck in self-defense. They've snuck in for self-defense. I was training one lady once for a year, and her husband was in prison because for
Yeah.
what he'd done to her. She was training
Wow.
for a year, self-protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very important for women.
Yeah. Um, uh, Moving on to something a bit different. You've written a book, haven't you, called The Art of the Arts? Is that right?
Yeah, the arts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's that about exactly?
So the art of the arts is about martial arts in general and understanding it, but it's how to be a good student. The book is
Right.
about how to be a good student. I'm fascinated with being a good student. It's not always about the coach. And in fact, my job as a coach is often to get my students to be better students. So they do half of my
Right.
job. So there's big chapters in my book about specifically when you turn up to a class, depending on what you're thinking as a student, you are either going to get a lot out of it or not a lot out of it. The people who've read my book have progressed a lot quicker because we have a chapter in there on filing cabinet mindset, what training part, what you should be thinking when you're rolling, what you should be trying, bringing old classes back to new classes, what different training partners are going to offer, how to keep a journal. Um, you know, I always liken it to this. You could have a student who trains with the number one grappling coach on the planet, John Danaher. Then you have another couple of guys who train in the middle of nowhere in America, but they've got access to the internet and they're obsessed with jiu-jitsu and all they do is train and grapple and copy. Those two that are obsessed with jiu-jitsu have got no coach other than YouTube and just crack on and love it and develop and they're obsessed. Or a couple that go to John Danaher's gym, but they're not particularly arsed. They're just there because they're just watching and doing a bit. They would not progress as much as the two who have got no coach. So, passion, how you learn, how you develop is a big one for me. But I wrote the book because I wanted people to know the differences of what martial arts means, about the mindset, and how to be a good student. And I finished it off mainly in COVID. So when we had the COVID period, I did a lot of that work then. Um, and I also created a website, coachnicobajerski.com, which is good. I put £5,000 into that, hundreds of hours of work. And again, so organized, it's all organized into its individual sections. And I've got, I won't call them students, but I've got people that use that now in the States, although almost all my students that now live in Thailand or Dubai, or they're not with me much, they use it as a reference and they study and they develop it. And I keep developing that website. And yeah, I've got a lot of instructionals on there, but it all links up and makes sense. So I've created two good products that came out of COVID. We didn't let it affect us as much as it did other gyms. We kept sneaking in as
Yeah.
well and doing grappling.
So you think, as well as going to class, it's important to sit and study as well,
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu, right?
yes, absolutely.
Sit there and try and learn.
I'm 1 hour a day is 4% of your day, I think it is. And if you just come and have no plan and do the class and leave, no good. When I was at the most obsessed with jiu-jitsu, again, some days I do 7 hour PTs and then a 2 hour class. Then I got to Leeds to train. Then I got to Bradford to teach. And then the next day I'd be competing. I was doing so many hours. And all I cared about was jiu-jitsu. When I was at home, I was studying YouTube. I was studying. I was writing it down, note after note after note. I put so much effort into jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
more than I've seen from even my students now. At my highest in 1 year, particularly, it was nuts. All I did was jiu-jitsu. All I thought was jiu-jitsu. And that's what you've got to do to be the best. You just got to be obsessed with it if you want to be the better one. When I got obsessed with it, I just got obsessed with it because, again, it's something which is close. Jiu-jitsu is the closest thing to magic is what you're going to get. And yeah, that's what I was doing. But I'm not a natural grappler, I tell people all the time, I'm a
Yeah.
natural boxer. I could have gone very far in boxing. Honestly, I'm a very good boxer, naturally. My kicks, they're all right. My boxing's very good. But my grappling, I wasn't a natural with it. You wouldn't move like some of my guys coming now. They just move good straight away and they get it quick. I didn't. I look natural, but that's come through a lot of hard work. So that's one of the reasons as well why I probably produce really good people, because I've got a hell of a lot of knowledge when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and I can easily pass that on and answer quite a lot of questions. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
So, do you have any favorite submissions or takedowns?
Yeah. Well, it's a funny one to answer that because favorite. So our club submissions are Darce choke. My name was the Darce Vader. Very good at Darce chokes, and I am. And all my students are very good at Darce chokes
Yeah.
because it comes natural to me. That is one that comes natural to me. But favourites, but I like guillotining people, to be fair, as well. Particular in terms of leg locks, it's not satisfying to me. There's a lot of new guys who come in and want a cheat code and look good for the gram, and they're obsessed with leg locks and inverting. Like I like, no, show me a guard pass and crush someone in mount and take the back. Show me that. That's jiu-jitsu more. Darces, we do a lot of darces, so and take down double leg. I call it the spin double. My favourite one's a spin double.
Yeah.
So when you get double, you sort of twist a little bit. Things called Shemaev. If you watch him do a double leg in the UFC, it's a spin double. So yeah, them two, I'd say, yeah.
Did you watch the recent UFC fight in Manchester with
Uh,
Bilal and Leon
I haven't had
Edwards?
time to watch it yet. I've just seen snippets of it, but three of my students were there and my colleagues were there, and they've all been sending me some clippets of it and stuff. But I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet. In fact, that night I couldn't anyway because I was in Sunderland,
Oh,
submission fight my own students for the British title grappling.
yeah.
So no, I haven't had chance. But I did have students there and stuff. But yeah, I didn't unfortunately. No, was it good?
Yeah, I just watched the highlights to be fair, but there was a lot of double leg takedowns, so just
Yeah,
because you mentioned it, so I was wondering what your thoughts were if you watched it.
get out today, 100%.
So how important do you think jiu-jitsu is in UFC?
Yeah, good question. That. Uh, well, obviously the UFC, you see, they split into 5 minute rounds, and it is biased towards a striker. If starts back on the feet, and I think wrestling, to be fair, is more important now. In the UFC, wrestling and striking, it's hard to get your grappling going because the way MMA is going now is very anti-jiu-jitsu. We've sort of found a very good way to mitigate jiu-jitsu in MMA, and the new style is quite hard to get it going. You've got to be an elite level jiu-jitsu fighter to pull it off in MMA, especially UFC now, and even then it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of if you look at, I was obsessed with Rio. I want the truth of martial arts. If you look at either a no time limit fight, if you looked at two MMA athletes and you said, right, you're just actually going to lock you in a cage and not do the rounds, and just see how tired you get, go, go, go. Eventually, you would see jiu-jitsu because the wrestling would slow down. There'd be no time limits. They'd be on the floor. They wouldn't be on the feet. And eventually, the truth of martial arts would come out and you would see jiu-jitsu prevail. So ultimately, it's still the truth and it's still the most effective. But for the time limit and the culture and the way it's going, now is wrestling.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Do you think jiu-jitsu will be will be an Olympic sport one day?
Um, I was thinking that the other day. I was saying, we've got the judo on it. It'd be good, wouldn't it, if it was?
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's not, and I'm glad it's not taught in schools either. I know it sounds crazy, but when people say BJJs might be part of the GCSE curriculum and it might be in the UFC, it sounds weird to say, but I quite like the fact that not loads of people do it, and there's probably still only 400 black dots in the country. Do you know what I mean? I quite like the fact that
Yeah.
it's where because if everybody did BJJ and knew what we knew and was lethal, then you'd have to do something else, wouldn't you? You'd have to train five
Yeah.
times to have one over
Yeah.
everyone.
It'd
I
make
like the
it less
fact
effective, wouldn't it? If
yeah,
everyone was.
if I go in a lift or something like that, and there's a couple of big guys in that lift that I think, you're stuck in here with me. I'm not stuck in here with you. But if they did BJJ, I'd probably think I'm stuck in here with you because they
Yeah.
know Oh, they don't know the reality of the world. There's a big part, if you will, in jiu-jitsu. What most men have zero idea of the realities of the world and how in danger they are of certain individuals when they get in a road incident, road rage, whatever. There's a big part of reality where men have no idea that they cannot fight. They think they can fight, they can't. I always say it. If I've got a problem with my boiler, I wouldn't try it myself. I'd ring a boiler man. But for some reason, everyone thinks they can fight. And they can't. They can't. I know that. I taught Ultra
Yeah,
MMA, the charity MMA, and you ask them to
yeah,
shadow or hit pads. They don't know how to make a fist. They don't know how. They don't know how to fight, but they think they can. They're confident. The most confident people there. And it's bizarre. I
yeah,
just find it bizarre how people think they can fight and they've got no flipping clue how vulnerable they are against a 16-year-old boy or girl who's trained for years. While I was training at 10th Planet in Los Angeles, there was a young lass there. I think you might have heard. She was called Grace Gundrum. She was in the
yeah,
EBI, and she was 14-year-old green belt trained for 10 years, and she was wrapping up full grown adults for fun.
yeah.
And I love that. I love that. It's real,
Yeah.
and it.
Is it John Danaher that said? I'm not sure if it was him that said, fighting someone untrained is like fighting with a child or
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
think so. I think so. You know,
Yeah,
so I mean, um, the other side to it is though you they are unpredictable. They are unpredictable, and there's a way to fight. We often in obviously jiu-jitsu is a language, so if you compete and roll often with other people that do it, you know what they're going to do. So if it's
yeah,
someone on the street, you got to know what they're going to do. It's not that. What it is, it's a headlock. So what they'll try to do is get you in a headlock every single time. Um, so as long as you're aware of what they're going to do and you've got a game plan to get out of headlocks, you're all right. No one's going to be doing an S mount armbar on you or gift wrapping you. They don't know what it is or how to grapple. So yeah, they've people who don't do grappling have got no idea. But then again, on the other hand, I do know some BJJ black belts out there that are would be so scared in a street fight. They'd be very scared. They're not prepared for a street fight. They'd be panicking. They'd run off. The adrenaline dump. But then again, people like my dad, who is more of a martial artist than he even knows himself, hence why he's
yeah,
spiritual as he is, he would have no problem with a street fight. He wouldn't even be scared, and he'd be very martial and he'd go to rip your eyeballs out. So then again, you ask yourself the question of the martial before the art as well. If you've got both, that's when you're lethal. If you're not scared
yeah,
that's when you've got a problem. You find
yeah,
often the best martial artists that I know, they're not. The 5 to 10 people in the martial in my BMA organization that I work with are some of the least flashy martial artists you would see on the mat, whether that's the striking or grappling. But they're some of the most brutal, lethal people you meet in your life because they just get to the point. They don't do anything flashy. They just go straight for you at an angle and they go through you. And that's
yeah,
because it's so effective and they've done it for so many years. And that's how we do our system. We don't mess about. We'll go out through you at an angle, whether that's on the ground or on the feet. And that's what it takes for it to be effective on everywhere in any environment.
Why do you think jujitsu attracts so many highly educated people? Um, I mean, even Elon Musk is trying
Mhm.
it now, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Well,
Zuckerberg from Facebook. It attracts intelligent people. Like, why do you
I,
think
I
that is?
imagine, I imagine the reason why all these famous people do BJJ now is because, is because they're smart. If you think about the reason why you would do it, is because why wouldn't you do it if you feel it? Some people start and they're in denial about it. They go, "This is difficult. I'm still in denial." All the smart people go, "No, if he can do that to me, I want to do it." And it's so effective and it's the best for self-defense, as we say. So especially if you're famous, it's so important that they do it to look after
Yeah,
themselves. Well, I think they should all do it. And they do. They do. Everybody who's anybody will do. Like my coach, Leo Nagal, who I train with, he trains Tiny Temper. So we're under the same
Right.
Tiny Temper in London, yeah.
Yeah.
So and he does it again for the self-defense purposes. When it comes to boxing and kickboxing, you're not actively going to be doing it over the age of 35. Like I teach it and spar every now and again and steady, but you can't be taking a kicking forever. But
Yeah.
grapple forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and obviously, as well, it's a martial art which, if you train right, you're not going to have too many black eyes, major head injuries, for what they do as a career and what have you. So they can still do it that way as well. But yeah, I know Elon Musk is he's doing BJJ now, isn't he? Tom Hardy, a lot of them are starting to do it,
Yeah.
and all quite often you find that you find out they've been doing it for years. Oh, he's a brown belt, is he? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
people do it in secret. Some of my clients, some very high level in what they do, and they tell me, "Don't tell anybody I train." They don't want me to tell anybody. They come in for privates. They don't want anyone to know they do BJJ for
Why?
whatever reason. Quite secret about it. No
Yeah.
idea, but they are. Yeah, they are. They don't want anyone knowing about it.
I want to be
Uh,
secretly dangerous.
yeah, they do. They do. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So have you thought about what the future of jiu-jitsu will be? Or
Yeah, I don't think it's not the best. It isn't. It isn't. I think people are getting better. I think obviously it's evolving in that respect. But you've got people now. See, when I started, my generation, the one just gone, a black belt was a black belt, and we had so much damn respect for a black belt. But it's getting watered down. You you you
right,
now you now have people that are renting a small room and putting mats down, flying an affiliation banner off somebody, going from blue to black belt in 3 years through seminars and paying them money. And you think, how have you gone from blue to black in 3 years or even 5? How have you done that? You're not trained with anyone else. Because I say I trained for 9 years, 10 years at other academy. How have you gone from blue to brown, blue to black training with your students in 3 years? You haven't, but you've got it. And that's what makes me sad, because when you've worked so hard for something and sacrificed lads' holidays, I've sacrificed so much to get my black belt. I sacrificed a hell of a lot. Cauliflower ears, broke my nose, had fights in a cage, didn't go out a lot, didn't go on lads' holidays, a lot of money, a lot of time, effort, stress. It boils your blood when you see someone go from white to black fast just because they've opened an academy. They
yeah,
shouldn't. Stolen valor. They're not a black belt, and they should take it off. But it is what it is. That's the culture.
yeah,
And also the culture again. What I don't like is Instagram. People try to look cool for Instagram.
yeah,
Um, I've lost respect again for there's a few local academies as well that they get intimidated and jealous, and you think, I think you're about it, and then when you realise they're writing stuff indirectly about you on social media because they're jealous because you're creating champions and they're not, then I lose respect for that as well, because that's cowardly behaviour. And then you
yeah,
soon realise someone's not about it. Because if you're about it, you don't say out on social media, you turn up at their house or the gym. Um, but yeah, so it's full of cowards as well, regardless of what
yeah,
people say. Jiu-jitsu is sort of full of cowards. And it's also getting a little bit, um, again, the generation before me was even tougher. Like Leon Agal says, a black belt was the man. He was a black belt. He just ready. Wherever you go, I'm ready. And then it gets a bit softer, but people still get a bit better. Then it gets a little bit more weird. And there's certain academies I won't even visit because I just can't be asked for the culture and the people in it, how they speak. I'm going down another tangent here, but I like the culture we've got at BMA, and I like the
no,
people.
that's interesting to hear because I only hear the positives from people, so it's
No,
interesting to know the reality that there's some negatives.
either way, it is positive and it is getting better, and
Yeah,
it is more inclusive. I just don't like people getting to black belt when from seminars. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it's what then happens is you've got black belts that are damn good, and then you've got other ones that are confusing people. The beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu and the amazing thing about it is is when you walk into an academy and you go, wow, that's amazing. Once that's
Yeah.
gone, that goes from some academies, that kills it for that student forever. Because
Yeah.
then they've never felt that proper academy. And we've got that strong at BMA. And there's some very good academies about, very good. You know, in the local area, there's still some other good academies. You got AVT, that's a very, very good gym. AVT Leeds, Air Valley's a good gym. Um, you know, there's a lot of good ones. Apex, Next Generation up north. There's some strong gyms about. There's still some strong gyms about. But then again, there's some other gyms that are doing it clearly for money. And if you're in it, again, as I said before, if you're in it for money or the wrong reasons or to fly through the belts, you ain't going to last. You need to love jiu-jitsu and want to enhance lives. And there's some of us still doing it, and there's some of us not doing it.
Yeah. So you think there's black belts that are vastly the different skill level to other black belts? They're not all the same.
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're always going to be like that anyway. You're a world champion
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have black belt. But no, no, you can. They can't. You just have to look at certain situations now, and you look at it and you go, you got that too quick. So no, and you can feel it as well. So their intentions might be good. And I love every martial art coach for that reason. They're all doing a good job, and martial art coaches, whether it's BJJ, whatever, all of them are flying the flag of good. They're helping kids, they're helping self-defense. So overall, it's good over bad. So what they're doing is great. They're keeping people fit, they keep people
Yeah.
strong, they're teaching self-defense, they're promoting BJJ still. But I just think there's no harm in it, and it shows pride and it shows respect to the art. Keep that blue belt on. Keep the purple belt on. You don't have to rush through the belts. Don't have to
Yeah.
rush through 'em.
No
Keep
rush.
that
Yeah.
bar on. Bet you more for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, just finally, do you have any specific future plans that you want to tell us
Uh,
about? Or
so
is it just
we
keep doing what you're doing?
we developing the academy all the time, making it better. We're bringing in
Yeah.
seminars with some of the best in the country. The goal ultimately is to keep getting people as best as I can, keep evolving my own game and the students' games by bringing other people in, um, and just to keep people loving jiu-jitsu and building the academy, making more champions. I've been asked last month twice to do some seminars now, Manchester, and the other one was in Scotland. So that's going to be happening at some point. I have people asking to affiliate through BMA. They want to learn our system to teach it as well. But again, I'm very selective who I let represent it, if you will.
Yeah.
I will grow BMA and let it grow further, but only with the right people, because you've got to resonate with people, and it's got to work well. Otherwise, you're disrespecting your own brand, really. So yeah, build BMA, keep pushing BMA further, keep making good people, good champions, and just to be honest with you, just to keep an academy where people feel safe and secure. That's another thing where we've worked really hard to keep it where people can feel safe and secure with no bullies and no idiots. They've all been kicked out. So to keep the culture strong down there and just to keep helping people like we're doing, keep
Yeah.
making kids go to school not scared and happy. And that's it
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been great speaking to you. Thanks a lot, then.
Have a great day, and maybe we'll do it again
You too.
sometime. See you later.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Bye.